Hi, I'm Branden Aroyan, and I'm a professional photographer. When I first started surfing, it was in the 6th grade. It was down at Malibu, Third Point, Malibu. Borrowed a friend's board, it's a lot smaller and wider. Got up, looked up, was so excited, and somebody was standing there. So I leaned, and the board bottom turned and took off. And I felt that action and that acceleration, and I was hooked. When I got my first camera, I was pretty young. I think it was like 5th grade or something like that. Didn't know what to do. I grew up with my dad shooting photos on family trips and all that, and that was great. So that's when I got my first camera. Then I just shot, and I didn't know what I was doing. I even bumped the settings once and underexposed it and got this great silhouette effect of my friends riding their bikes over this mountain. Later learned how to do that on purpose. So that was cool. I went to Brooks Institute of Photography for photography education. Full 3-year program, super intense. And through that, I would use a long lens, I'd borrow a lens. With surf photography, it basically started with a long lens from the beach. The longer and longer they got as I borrowed them, and then I got a waterhousing. It all began again, and I got to swim and see what I'm seeing from the paddling out perspective and the surfing perspective. One of the greatest things was to be able to be in the water and film like I see it when I'm paddling out. And that was just the greatest joy, to be able to see it again, and to be there is the greatest part. To be able to get it on film is another success, and then to be able to share it without any technical glitches is just the full icing on the cake. I shot film for 12 years, so really had to know what the exposure was, and you had some idea of what you were getting, and that was part of the joy. I think video came along when some friends had jobs that required it. Get that little crash course on how to operate the camera and just get into it. Video is so critical, handheld, in the sense that every breath makes a huge difference. So suddenly your breathing changes and your whole body posture changes, and everything becomes a lot more fluid and more zen. Versus still photography, you can be waving your hands around and shooting photos real quick and you're still getting sharp photos. And that makes it easier for stills. But then the timing needs to be right with the stills, so that makes it more difficult. A lot of the times when shooting surf photography, shooting in the water with the camera housing, it always feels like I'm bull in a matador. Like the surf, the wave, the surfer is this massive bull raging at me, and then I am the bull in the matador, and it's just how close can you get? Those times when the surfer goes flying past you and you're in the water shooting, it's like, yeah, I got the shot, but the wave doesn't stop or care. And so next thing you know, now you have to deal with the wave picking up and pulling you, throwing you over the lip. And with the ocean, I think one of the most surprisingly relaxing times came in some of the biggest surf I've ever been in. It was at Pipeline with Joel Tudor on a perfect west swell, and he's in the prime spot, so I was lining up with him, so I ended up in the prime spot. And just as he comes out of the barrel and goes flying past me, I just sat back and I was just totally relaxed, like I was in a big lazy boy. And the whole ocean was just spinning around me, and I didn't even have to do anything at all, just neutrally buoyant, and floated back up to the surface. And then that same session, I realized the horrors and terror of swimming and surf photography, in the sense of being caught inside and just barely making it to the edge of the wave and swimming down and watching these huge tornadoes all of a sudden just go whoosh, whoosh, just going all the way to the bottom. And I felt like I was Jack and the Beanstalk or something, or Tarzan, like swimming in between these trees of swirling water masses that if you touch them, they'll just take you and spin you and throw you in places you don't want to go. Most of my projects, I try to back 100%. I really try to believe in what I'm filming, and that's the extra bonus of, I'm getting paid to do this, like, type of thing. Like, it doesn't feel like a job when you're super interested in something. Just like with everything, if you're passionate about it, it doesn't feel like a job, even if you're getting paid to do it and you're being required to supply something. And when I'm supporting a nonprofit, that's great. and it's when I'm into it. I support most nonprofits. They're usually up to something really good, and that's when it really feels good about being able to support somebody else. And it doesn't feel like a job. It's always the bonus to be able to really relate to what's happening with the subjects that you're filming. And that's when it becomes an extension of you. Low tide rising, that's a passion piece for sure, of my own. It's been a great journey, and it's given back as many times. The name, I came up with it while surfing. There's so many analogies you can put to low tide rising. It's just the feel, the empowerment, the uprising. When the coffee starts hitting your bloodstream and your day starts happening, you know, you're like, oh yeah, all right, here we go. It's like when you're on a road trip and you're eating a sandwich and all of a sudden a good song comes on the radio and you're just like, yes, all right, we're doing this, here we go. The artwork for Low Tide Rising, it's all my photography. Typically the favorites or ones that go really well together. I've heard some great stories about my clothing line, Low Tide Rising. I saw one guy walking around on the beach and I was like, that's my shirt. And he's like, what? I'm like, I shot that photo. And all of a sudden he looks at me and he marches right up to me. I kind of felt scared, but I didn't. And he gets right in my face and he says, this shirt brings peace to my day. And I was like, yes, that's great news. One of my favorite images, which is totally random and I wouldn't have guessed it, is Horse on Beach. It was published by Patagonia. They happened to use it for a catalog, but it was from France. I was shooting film. I had about 5 frames left, and we were getting these glorious barrels, southern France, and I got out of the water, I saw this horse on the beach, so I walked up in my wetsuit with my fins on still, and I kind of walked around so I didn't get my footprints in the shot, and I just got rid of the last few images on the roll of this relationship going on with this lady and her horse on the beach in the morning. And it has that low tide rising feel, that like wound up, just like open canvas, like let's go, here we go, we're going. One of the most passionate photos I have, for numerous reasons, is Heart Barrel. It's from a day that I surfed with my wife. I shot photos for about a half an hour. After about 10 frames, I saw I got something, so I put the camera down and we ended up surfing for the rest of the day. And it's special too, because it's a spot that we met at and we continue to go back to. So that was super cool. I had everything all dialed in, you know, my shutter speeds and my f-stops were all set at manual, and just get out there, point and shoot, just being in the right spot at the right time. Another favorite photo of ours is titled Stacked Lines. That's more of an art piece. I got a new lens, I went wandering around, went surfing, and went up north, found some serenity, and found this image. It came together so nicely that a lot of people really brought it into their homes, and it just gives you really that peaceful feeling of space and calm. I just feel so good to be able to provide that to people. Another random favorite photograph is Kelly Slater standing on the rocks. It was our first photo session, officially, and he'd never been there before. I actually gave him a false surf report. I thought it was only head high, a little overhead. It ended up being one of the biggest days of the year, and being Kelly, he ended up connecting it farther than anyone really ever has before as well, and got pretty much the longest ride in history as he surfed into the dark. Yeah, finding me is easy. That's Low Tide Rising. That's lowtiderising.com. That's the website for photos and film and clothing. And Instagram's Low Tide Rising as well. Hi, I'm Branden Aroyan, and you're watching the Surf Channel.
I'm Elizabeth Pepin Silva, and I'm a professional surf photographer and filmmaker.